J. Barber. Yes, remembering Eruch, the right hand of God. In writing that, I'm remembering Eruch, particularly in the 70s and 80s, when he, in a natural, casual and relaxed manner, reflected so truly his remembrance of his beloved Lord, Avatar Meher Baba. You could not say, for example, that he was humble, because his manner was so very natural that it is difficult to dissect the nature of his delivery. I am reminded of what I wrote of the old close bundley, and which perhaps conveys something of their effect on me. They all have one thing in common, difficult to pinpoint, but which could be described as lightness of spirit. They affect one as does a clear dawn after a night of deep sleep. This lightness or emptiness of self comes from a common source, an absolute unswerving devotion to their beloved Baba. As Eruch reminded us so beautifully and naturally that the path to him is the constant remembrance of him as the beloved. As Baba has said, meditation brings peace and stillness, but in doing so, the beloved is forgotten, whereas love brings the remembrance of the beloved and thus forgetfulness of self. Meher Baba emphasised in the discourses of the need for spiritual workers to apparently descend to the lower level of those to whom the worker was talking. And at the same time, it was equally important that the worker does not actually lose his own high level of understanding. Thus, so much of Eruch's interaction with all was in the form of stories, Baba stories and stories from spiritual tradition, simple analogies, and above all, honesty in speaking about oneself and his life with Baba. For myself, a child on the path of love for him, I loved those stories. I loved his naturalness and simplicity, and yet I was always aware somehow that he never lost his overriding connection with beloved Baba whilst interacting with us. Where did he learn so many of these stories? He heard them at the feet of his first teacher, his dear mother, Gaimai. Just as Baba's father was spiritually minded and his mother practical, so in the Jesawala family there was the same balance. But here, Gaimai was the intense seeker of the truth, and Bayramshore was a self-made, very practical man. Gaimai played a significant role in Eruch's upbringing. Not only was she the source of a great fund of spiritual stories and spiritually inspiring stories, but also ensured that Eruch knew about and could attend to household duties, activities including cooking, gardening and basic medicine. The Jesawala family was visited by perfect masters, perfect ones, saints and sadhus. And any sadhu who flaunted their spiritual prowess and powers got short shift from Gaimai. Thus, Eruch's childhood and pupilship were well-rounded and balanced, the years fully involved with living in and handling the world, and also developing the mind and heart qualities necessary for a life serving the Lord in his advent as Meher Baba. The relationship between Papa and Guy Mai Jesawala was, you could say, a beautiful example of the ideal marriage as decreed by God and described at times by Eruch during those years of the 70s. Eruch said, "Man and woman are equal in the eyes of the God-man, and from the point of view of reincarnation, a man of today may assume the form of a woman in the next incarnation and vice versa. However, the role of the woman form is unique, for it alone can deliver to the world the most immaculate man form in the God-man." Man and woman, husband and wife, each is an individual, but as husband and wife they are, above all things, co-sharers. And to be co-sharers in the sacred bond of marriage, as Barbara has pointed out, the individuality of each must be there. The role of the wife is to see that the husband and children are properly looked after, physically and mentally, and the husband's thoughts and feelings soothed and comforted when needed. When the wife does this, the husband can devote his time to earning for the household and also see to the spiritual side of the family. According to tradition, he has that responsibility. And the wife's responsibility is to create such an atmosphere that enables the husband, after the daily material activity, to devote time towards his spiritual emancipation. And through that, he also gains it for the close ones of his family. So the role of the wife is to create harmony, to keep peace in the house and give comfort to the thoughts and feelings of her husband. She is a comforter and he is a provider. This brings to mind a very good story. A police officer and his family became very close followers of Baba. They would bring offerings to him, prepare food for him. Their children would play about him, and the baby would sit on his lap. They were often in his presence. But then came a time when Baba retired in seclusion for a long duration, and the family no longer saw him. So the wife decided to maintain communion with Baba in her own way. She created a room for him and spent more and more time there, singing bhajans and serving food to him. The husband and wife were very happy for her in her intense devotion to Baba. But over time, this devotion meant less and less time spent caring for the family. She would become absorbed and forgetful of time. So her attention to the welfare and comfort of the husband and children grew less and less, while increasing her time and activities in her devotion to Baba. After some time, the Lord again called his close ones to him, and of course the police officer and family came. Baba's attention was drawn to them, and to the obvious neglect in the husband's and the children's appearance and condition. And he asked, "What is the matter with you people? What has happened to you? Have you lost your job?" The husband did not care to reply because the Lord himself was cause of their plight. But finally he spoke up and described the position in the household, with the wife more and more absorbed in her worship of Baba. Baba then turned to the wife and said, "You have done your duty to me. You have cared so well for me in this form, and I am well pleased with you. But at the same time, I am neglected in the form of your husband, your daughters, your sons. You have pleased me in this form, but displeased me in these other forms. So please me in their forms too. Thus Eruch reiterated how Baba clarified the duty of the wife as one of help and service to husband and children, in such a way that she is serving her Lord, while the duty of the husband is to ensure that Baba's forms are well provided for, well fed, and well protected. On an occasion, Baba said, childhood is the ideal period of life in which to take an interest in spirituality. The impressions received at an early age become deeply ingrained. Divine beauty, grandeur and bliss should always be impressed upon children, so much so as to fire their imaginations to the highest pitch about God and his greatness. With this background of a loving and spiritually active family life, and always speaking silently before speaking, silently evoking Baba, whatever you wish to say, say it through me. Eruch would talk to us about bringing up children. Those parents who have the interest of the child foremost at heart, before their own interest and comfort, will ensure that a proper environment is created for the growth of the child. Good food is not the only food to be given a child. More important are the mental impressions with which the child is fed. The friends of the child and of the family should be carefully chosen. Also the school to which the child goes. Special bedtime stories should be told to the child, ones that will feed good impressions. The best way of disciplining children is for them to imbibe from the parents the right way of life. The children will thus develop in a natural way good habits and will learn the art of loving concern for others, learn the art of charity, of forgiveness, of speaking the truth, and so on. If a disciplined life is lived by the parents, then the child will imbibe discipline naturally. However, it can be a good lesson to spank the child in certain circumstances, but of course without anger. A taste of discomfort for the child is at times most essential.